Alright, so we got lucky on this and all of the nuts came off without pulling the studs out. I hate it when it happens because I've had a bad experience putting them in, and I worry a little bit about them, being stripped in there. So I'm usually, when I put them back in, they go into this aluminum hub, which is a cast aluminum hub, steel axle. And every other one of these things has a cone in it. Not every one, I guess it's 4 cones. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it has a nut, a washer, and a cone on on 4 of the studs. And so those cones center the axle and keep it from moving around, which keeps the nuts from working loose. The problem is these cones are very hard to get, and they're supposed to be about a 1/16 of an inch of the cone sticking out when you put them back on. And these are getting a little bit worn out, but I think they're still usable. So we'll see. Now, the next step is getting the axle out. And here's the trick to doing that. Okay? I know this is going to seem counterintuitive, but here's how you do it. Alright, so it bounced out, and now the oil will start coming out. And get the cones out like that. There's a cone. See, those are what the cones look like. There's a cone. A little bit hard to get out. We'll get them out, but that's how that works. I'll be back. Alright, so we reset from our rookie mistake here, and hey look, you gotta bear with me, I'm getting old, and it's been 25 or more years since I did this last, so I forgot how long this axle was, but I should have known better, because I have done this before, and that is it. It makes it that time. So there we go. So the next thing that comes off is this seal. And it says outside on it, I guess maybe you can read that, and it tells you which way it goes. Anyway, that's the next thing to come off. Now this is not a wet hub, this is a dry hub, meaning that it doesn't have oil in it, it has grease. And so you pack these bearings, you don't let them run in the oil, but the oil does work its way out. And what you see running out right now is a mixture of oil and old wheel bearing grease. I should also say that it's been probably 150,000 miles since I've serviced this bearing, and since I've done anything with these brakes are still good actually. Probably would go 250,000 because I don't drive much in the city, mostly highway is the only kind of driving we do, so you don't use them much. And for going down hills we have a Jake brake, and so they don't get much wear and tear. But anyway, that's what we start with. The next thing we'll do is we'll get our hub nut wrench socket, and we'll take that big nut off and slide the bearings out. But that won't be the next thing. Actually, the next thing I have to do is jack the bus up and get the wheels off of it. So if we're lucky, we'll get off and it won't be a problem. If not, we may have to work on it a little bit. There it goes, just like that. Now this is the locking nut. And that comes off. And then the adjusting nut for the bearings is the next nut, but we'll get set up first with the jack, the motorcycle jack underneath. That's what that looks like. You get set up with a motorcycle jack underneath, and we'll take off the ring that holds it in place, and this ring actually is notched, and what this does is it allows you, if you can get off of here, to adjust the locking nut. You can see this, it has a little ear on it right here that slides into the slot. So you get your adjusting nut on where you want it, you slide this on until one of the holes lines up with the pin that's on the bottom of the adjusting nut. And one of these holes you may have to turn it around. You might have to adjust it just a tad, but usually it fits. And that holds that in place. And then you put your locking nut on, and surprisingly, it stays on now. I'll never understand it. It always makes me think that there should be something else that, you know, like a tab on the front that bends over or something that, you know, assures that won't come off there. But, you know, 150,000 miles since I've had that off. So we got the adjusting nut just about ready to come off here. Got our jack positioned underneath. One thing you ought to try not to do is this bearing will slide right out of here if you're not careful, and see, there it goes already. Have a clean place to put your tools and your bearings and whatnot, so that they don't get dirty. And you see it's floating already. Alright, we got the bearing here, if I can get hold of it. Put that on the ground with a clean paper towel, and hopefully now that's it. That is it. So I've actually already taken this apart, but I sort of put it back together to give you an idea of how this works. On the brake shoe retaining pin is a set of pins and cones, and these are the cones that go inside here that center this retaining pin or plate rather on the pins that hold the shoes in place and keep them from moving around. So you take the nuts off, they were lock nuts, you back them off, and you kind of have to tap this a little bit to get the cones loose. You pull the plate off, and then there's spacers on the inside and the outside. You take them out, of course. And when the two drums are put together on this bus, it's hard to get to the spring because the spring is in here like this. And so what I do is just pull the whole assembly out together, and once it gets past the S-cam, the spring compresses, and then you can disconnect it and pull it off freely, and just pull the bottom brake pad off and pull the top one off, and you're set to go, just like that.